Zox fam. Now we have to get into the global launch tier list shifts. There was a massive patch note that obviously came out the other night that gave us nerfs, that gave us buffs, and yeah, there's some shifting that we have to do. So we're going to be starting out with the triple S, which is our cream of the crop, and we're jumping right into it. Okay, so the very first character that we have here on the list is actually going to be Leon. Leon is our free character that every single person is going to have on their account. I still feel like she's one of the best characters to invest in on your account for DPS. So with that being said, there was nothing that changed with her, so there's no reason to shift her. The next character here is going to be Tiamat. Tiamat, unfortunately, I am going to be shifting down. I feel like the value of her self-sustain for PvE definitely like significantly has diminished. And then on top of that, even with what she was able to do in PvP, we're going to see some, value diminished there and just her ability to self-sustain. Everything else is still the same though. So her still being able to damage share, shield, heal over time, the taunt, then also being able to go into the Dragon Mother form and still dishing out, ridiculous damage is still going to be a thing. But I think when we're looking at the overall scope of this character, I think like to, try to get someone to build her for PvE, you then have to consider pairing her. So she's definitely going to need to be with a sustainer to make up for that 30% self-sustain that she's losing. And the other thing is too, is if you want to also kind of help with some of that, you can't really build her like the speed route that a lot of players were trying to go. The devs kind of shut that down for what it seems, and they're really seeming to want to push her more into that bruiser role that she has, where she needs to be built with a ton of bulk. You're definitely going to have to build into like the bloodbath set so that you can actually reduce damage incoming, especially if it hits over a certain percentage, so that she's not taking nearly as much damage because she can't self-retain or self-restore nearly as much HP as she was able to before. So I feel like for me personally, again, she's nice to have on your account, but this isn't even going to be a target for me when it comes down to like the units I want to have starting my progression and really trying to push throughout the game. So, that's just my take. But then again, moving on, we have Hellkid here. I feel like with Hellkid, again, nothing has changed. He is still going to be the busted like support sub DPS that he is. So we're going to leave him there. Ramoka is still cream of the crop for what she does in terms of damage, especially when we're looking at like things like Doki Doki. Nothing changed with her, so we're going to be leaving her as well. Nothing changed for Biotin. So Biotin is also going to be staying here in Triple S. Now, the next character here that we have is Close. Now, Close, I think, is a character that I'm actually going to still keep here because she still is one of the top damage ampers in the game. And the thing that was actually adjusted in her kit was actually the unique speed debuff that she had in her ability. And the thing that they actually gave her instead was a speed down in her skill 3. So they took out the speed, like it was like what, 4% or something like that. They took that completely out of her unique debuff and they gave her the speed down instead, which is 30%. Now this is really mainly changing her combinations. I don't think it really changes her value as a damage amper or a debuffer. It's not really changing that, but it's just changing the oppressiveness of the speed like paired up with other things, or the speed down paired up with other things. And then she just gets that like straightforward speed down with the defense break. So it's changing some of her pairings a little bit. But other than that, I think that this character is still really, really good for what it's worth. And a lot of players are absolutely going to be using her to amp damage, especially in things like Doki Doki and other PvE contents where, again, turn manipulation isn't going to be able to meet the expectations that it was meeting like in the previous beta, right? So that's just kind of that. So then with what we have now, Freya, I think her value, and that's the other thing, like Close and Freya, their value actually shot up because they kind of like took down some of the value from some of the turn meter stealers and turn meter pushback units. So I think that's really reinforcing the idea that they want you to be trying to deal raw damage. And even with some of the fights being a little bit longer, I don't really think it's like hurt the game to that degree where you can't do anything anymore. You just can't ooga booga in the game like as much as we were before. So, we're still going to figure stuff out, but that's just kind of food for thought. But yeah, Freya, not shifting her. She actually got a buff. So there's that. Ling Lao also received the buff. Her purification also, I think, got increased. So yeah, nothing to really see or shift with her. So yeah, Ling Lao, I think, again, she's also free. So she's going to be staying here. All the LD units are not shifting. What's really important to note with them, none of them got touched. So there's that. If anything, their value actually kind of went up. So I would say, for argument's sake, like Heinrich, Doki Doki, and Lily here. So Heinrich, Doki Doki, and Lily. These are the, like, honestly, some of the pristine or top 3, LDs in the game, with Lily being number 1. Again, Heinrich is going to be great for his role in PvE, where he kind of plays more of like a buff stripper, kind of damage amper, with the crit damage increase and the crit rate proc chance increase, as well as being able to block buffs and stuff of that nature. You also have Doki Doki with the skill cooldowns. You have the turn meter push forward. You also have the purification of debuffs from her. So, I mean, that built in with also the speed increase and the damage dealt increase. I mean, still extremely high value. And then, of course, the best LD in the game, in my opinion, is going to be Lily. So Lily with the twin trick, I mean, do I need to say more? You get the crit damage up. She gives the entire team speed up buff. She also is going to be able to push forward the ally under twin trick. She can reduce their cooldown and also their shells. Somebody had mentioned that on the video, which I was like, dude, I forgot about that part. She can reduce shell cooldowns too. So like, she's just nuts. Like, I definitely think that, again, her value is just undeniable. So yeah, she's still sitting in triple S as well. Now, Dina, I'm actually leaving in triple S. She did get adjusted, but the thing that actually was adjusted on her was actually her ability to turn meter still. And that was mainly in her skill 1. They reduced that to 15% from 25%. And then it also reduced the erosion turn meter push forward that you were given, which was 10%. It's now 6%. The main thing that you really use her for is the damage amp, which is the erosion. When you crit, basically, it'll allow you to deal 60% true damage based off of the attacker's attack. They didn't touch that. So that's all we really care about with a character like Dina. So, hey, we still win, right? I mean, there's really no reason to shift her. She's still going to be one of the top damage ampers in the game. So that's still crazy value. Now, Savia did get touched. Savia is not going to be as crazy like she was before. They adjusted something that she was doing that we didn't really actually realize, I guess she wasn't apparently supposed to be doing, which was triggering her passive when she was stunned, frozen, petrified, or sleep. So with that being the case, I am actually going to shift her down to double S. I even will say, like, even with the pairing scope, like with her with Tiamat, it's gonna still be a thing, but I don't think it's gonna be nearly as ridiculous as it was before. I still think, like, again, all powerful protection is still something that's extremely notable. But the thing that they really changed on her was being able to still trigger her passive, even under like those like CC lockdown abilities, which was like kind of insane and what made her the best healer to throw into PvP even. They are also adjusting like her healing I guess like kind of output. So it's going from like 16 to 14% of her maximum HP. And then also they're decreasing the healing effectiveness from 0.8, if I'm not mistaken, to 0.6. So yeah, they kind of took her down. So I don't think that she's necessarily like the worst healer in the game, but she's definitely not nearly as good as she was before. Actually, hold on, that might make her the, but either way, she's still gonna be usable, but not as crazy as I felt like she was prior to. So next up, we have Gray. Gray, I still think it's like super insane for progression. Definitely is going to be a character that players can, like, you know, I would say safely build. He's going to still be able to, you know, land that defense break, damage amp, you know, help you with that crit rate, which is going to help you with, you know, some of your gear requirements. Giving you 30% crit is always nice because that's, you know, kind of lowers some of your parameters that you have to try to fulfill. So yeah, Gray, I think, is super huge. Valyrian is also going to be on this list, staying as is. I think if anything, her value has actually gone up because, again, she's constant. You know, for what it's worth, what Valyrian does is super insane. The Hazy Dream, when you get that skill 3, like all the way maxed out, chef's kiss, right? Like starting out with that in the very beginning of the fight, you have, you know, the ability to HP bounce, you have the ability to death prevent, you have the invincibility proc, you also have the, you know, the basic buff effect, which fills in a buff you're missing. So there's so many things that she actually brings to the table, which makes her utility just so insane. She's going to be absolutely amazing for progression for players. Now, next we actually have Marvel. Marvel is actually going to be shooting down to double S. Now, for me, the main main thing with Marvel and what really changed him was the fact that they kind of reduced everything. It's not so much to the point where he's not usable, but it definitely, like I would say for one, what really made him oppressive was not just so much that he had the turn meter push, but his cooldowns weren't nearly as high, and they raised his cooldowns. So now his skill 3 is at a 5 turn instead of a 4 turn cooldown. And it's like, yeah, you can use things to try to cool that down, but that's like more work to try to get that one character to work. And then on top of that, the chance to steal turn meter was reduced to 40%. And then the turn meter still itself in the skill 1 is now 15% instead of 25%. And then what you also are going to have is the turn meter still that you actually, or the pushback that you're getting from the skill 3 is now 40% and not 50% anymore. So, you know, that's definitely a thing that I feel like is going to heavily affect a character like Marvel. I still think he's going to be valuable because he is the only character still that has the res down with the speed down. But I think it's one of the things that you have to kind of consider when you're playing with like certain characters. Like, say for example, you have a character like Close and then you have Marvel, you're not going to really be trying to double up on speed down, because why would you, right? You would want something else. So I guess it just kind of all depends on what you're using. But yeah, that's basically that. Kraken, I think, is actually going to stay. I honestly don't think that anything that change with him was so significant to the point where it just dropped him. He still is going to have pretty high chances of being able to land his stuff. It just kind of balanced it out to kind of give a little bit more of a fair shake against him. I would definitely say 65% chance on the pushback is still really good. 75% was actually really OP, by the way. I just want to say that, like, that would, like, if you look at a lot of the other characters, most characters don't have a 75% anything to land a debuff, or let alone a freaking pushback. So yeah, 65% chance is still going to make it really, really high in terms of its ability or chance of being able to proc. Instead of it being 35% though on the pushback, it is 30%. So there's 5% less, but hey, we have to take what we can here. And then it's a 50% chance to apply the freeze for 1 turn instead of 60%. So he still has some pretty solid numbers. I don't think that that's like hurting him or making him a unit that just doesn't work anymore. Definitely still, I would say, a character that's going to still do his respective job, just not as OP anymore when you start talking about the crazy pairings we were seeing with Marvel and Kraken and locking people completely down to where they just never got a turn. So again, not terrible, right? Number 41, I definitely will say number 41 is getting shifted all the way down. And I'm actually going to be putting her into S tier. And the reason why that is because they actually capped her skill 3 to 20%. It's no longer 35%. And that was actually the real thing that made her like kind of a stick out character. I still think for what it's worth, she'll be okay to use. But man, I'm almost even tempted to shift her even further down, just because like at that point, it's like, well, if I end up getting, say, Chiaki the Echo, and I build Chiaki the Echo, then there's like really no need for me to build number 41. I mean, the only other thing I would say you could argue is like maybe an attribute exclusive content. There might be a scenario where like you can't use your Chiaki the Echo. So having the investment and number 41 with her low cost, like, you know, as you're pushing and investing in your account might not be too bad. But I definitely would say at that point, like for most progression and just kind of pushing, if you have Chiaki the Echo, you don't really need number 41, especially because of the fact that her like max parameter isn't even going to surpass anymore Chiaki the Echo. So you know, it's just kind of what's happening at this point. So yeah, unfortunately we're gonna have to drop her down. She's not as OP in the burst push anymore. Now we're leaving Dating's value actually went up, and not because anything happened to him, which is the funny thing, but it's because the only other character I would just say that, you know, kind of was like right there with him in terms of like that damage output was actually Victor. And Victor is actually a character that got a adjustment. I would even say they kind of like took his damage down significantly, and his ability to also stack shields, which I guess apparently was a bug. But now for every 10% of HP that he loses, his increased damage dealt is not 15%, but it's only 9%. And then he's able to reduce the damage still by 6%. So with that being the case, it does take Victor down quite significantly. He's not going to be as oppressive as he was before. I think like the dude was like basically almost able to like one tap or one shot damn near almost everything. Not like in terms of like just PvE, but like when you're talking about like PvP and things of that nature, like he was like a unit people were using to like counter Tiamats and stuff like that. And now I feel like because they lowered like the threshold of how much HP restoring or restoration that like Tiamat can do, Victor's not going to be nearly as crazy. So I'm going to be shifting him to like the bottom. I'm going to put him at like right now. I think Victor is going to go because they like literally half this DPS, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, we're going to put him in high S tier. So I'm going to leave him there for right now. And, you know, once we do some more testing with him, then we'll shift him up as accordingly, or shift him down if we have to. Now from there, I would definitely say Rahu is definitely a character that we're going to be leaving up here. If anything, Rahu's value kind of went up just because they buffed him for, I mean, I guess they buffed him just because they felt like it. He got a damage buff, so he actually hits way harder on his S1 now, which, you know, was that something that he really needed? I mean, maybe they found something that I guess he needed for. I don't really know what it was that was like, hey, we need to buff Rahu, but hey, they did it. So yeah, Rahu's value is definitely a lot higher. And then I would say from there, what we're also seeing too is that he also is able to, with each stack, he's able to increase his defense further. So that also paired up with, you know, the maximum like basic attack output being able to increase by 1%. It doesn't cap at 30% anymore. It caps at 40%. So yeah, they kind of did their big one for him. He's definitely a higher value character. Still keeping Messiah here as well. No reason to really shift him. I mean, for what it's worth, I would definitely say that he's still a damage dealer that does extremely well. You have to fully invest in him, but you know, that's just kind of that. Now from here, I would say everything in double S is pretty much the same. Born did get a damage buff, but I think Born still kind of runs into that same issue that he had before, that he can't really be paired up with anyone because he doesn't crit, and a lot of these characters are like crit enabling basically. So we need, I feel like, a lot more to really get Born to pop off more and to have more like you know, I would say efficient pairings with him. I definitely will say Viper is definitely going to see a little bit more light at this point, and limelight, just because like for what it's worth, like having like that constant buff stripping is just insane. And his best friend is literally Rahu, by the way. So yeah, there's kind of that. Tsukiyomi is another character that I definitely feel like, you know, kind of should be up in the higher portions of double S, even if you know, even more so I would say like closer to triple S, because she's really good for like, you know, speed rotations and things of that nature. So if you don't have one, she's great. I really feel like, you know, Tsukiyomi gets undervalued and is underrated for like a lot of reasons, but yeah, she definitely is a character that has a ton of value. Let me see here. Kazuyo, is this Kazuyo Kazumi? Yeah, Kazuyo Kazumi is definitely a character for the skill cooldown. Is going to be really nice if you have the extra lattices. Not something I would technically would prioritize, but she definitely can filter and kind of help out with that. But even with like, you know, some of the other characters, like if you have Lily or yeah, Doki Doki, or you have Tsukiyomi, you might not have to go so crazy with trying to invest in Kazuyo. But yeah, that's just that. Now, when we go into S tier, we're actually going to be shifting a couple of things up. I'm actually going to be shifting up, which I wasn't really expecting to do this, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's kind of the same reason why I still place Messiah in triple S, is because like, hey, if you want to go for the investment, that unit is insane. It's going to be Rosa, right? Now, Rosa, again, I have to note, guys, you have to fully invest in her. I would even argue a little bit more than even Messiah. If you really want like Rosa to work, that's the whole reason why I put her down here, was really so that players understood like, hey, that's a character you got to put a lot more in. Not really necessarily the friendliest unit for new players that have no idea what they're doing. You have to know what you're doing if you try to invest in and plan on building a character like Rosa, because you have to consider even your team. In order for her to really pop off, everybody needs to have a certain amount of crit rate, because if they're not critting, then she doesn't proc nearly as much. She did get an adjustment, which was reduce the turn meter pushback she had from 10% to 8%, but who cares? That's not really changing really much on her. She's still going to be really effective in all facets of the game that she's used in. So yeah, Rosa is going to be a problem, honestly. Like, especially fully built, she's definitely going to rip apart a lot of things, from Doki Doki to a lot of challenge content. She's insane, but she is a full investment character, 1000%. Okay, so I'm gonna shift her up for those of you guys that really are like, because again, her value is undeniable, but I definitely think that you have to fully invest. I cannot stress that. All right, so with that being the case, everything else here, I think it's pretty much like set in stone. Veronica, I'm actually going to be shifting up. The main reason why I'm not putting her into triple S is because I don't think you necessarily need her to start progression pushing, but Veronica definitely is going to see a lot more light when we start looking at like PvP. Definitely more reliable for buff stripping now because they decided to actually rebuff her. So they nerfed her and then buffed her back to where she was. So the 50% spread definitely kind of cooked her usability for a lot of players, and now they put it back to 100%. So she's definitely going to be a lot more reliable when it comes to being able to spread those buffs, which I guess kind of makes sense because that's her only ability that she really is using. At the end of the day, she does offer like shield and stuff like that, but that's like her bread and butter. So I feel like her value definitely shot her up with that readjustment. And then of course with that, one character I definitely want to shoot up is going to be Chloros. Now Chloros, I will say for me personally, is still he's not like, it's so weird like because he's such a triple S unit at endgame, but he's not a unit I would really say you would want to go crazy trying to pick up in the very beginning for your initial progression push, because one of the things that he's kind of hindered by is, one, you need high hit counts, but then also two, you need to fully invest in skill 3 and he's single target, right? So in some content you're going to run into, you need to be able to kill multiple things. And because of that, that actually will hinder you. At that point, is he better than like investing in like a Leon for progression? Not in my opinion. I still think you would build up a Leon, right? Like that's just what it is. But when you're able to start ramping and getting him built up and you're in longer form fights, Chloros will easily start to out DPS Dating. He'll easily start to out DPS Messiah. Like he'll easily start out DPSing those characters because he's really honestly a character that's intended to be in longer fights. So that's kind of that, right? So yeah, I feel like that puts a lot of things in a much more solidified position. I definitely would even say, like, even with units like Heinrich, those units are like, they're good at what they're worth. I mean, they're like dark, so their values are just really, really high. Now when we get closer to the release, we're gonna actually be able to place Hoyan back on the list because we'll actually know what her kit is. We to address that as well, because I know some players are probably wondering, like, wait, didn't we see Hoyan in the in the patch notes? Yes, we did. It also showed a character named Holden, but I don't think it was supposed to be shown yet, because not even like within the hour of me releasing like my video on the patch notes, they removed that entire section of that video, or not of that video, but of that part of the website, right? So I feel like it was not supposed to be shown yet, because it was also referring to like a limited banner, and the first rotation of limited banners is Messiah and Freya. I think that was going to be the next ones. So with that being the case, we still probably have to wait maybe a little bit into release, maybe 2-3 weeks maybe, so we'll have to see. But at that point, guys, we'll be able to place Hoyan onto the tier list. We'll also have access to Miu. So I will say with Miu, we can't place her just yet because she's not in the game. It wouldn't be fair to place a character that nobody's been able to play yet. And there's also another character that's coming. If I remember correctly, I gotta remember what her name is. I think it's oh crap, what is her name? Mizuki, I think it is. Yeah, Mizuki Makoto, I think it's I think that's her name, Mizuki Makoto, which is an odd attribute SR that's coming into the game. So we have to wait for her information. They really haven't given us anything on her at all. So yeah, we still have some units that we'll be placing after release, but at that point we'll be able to further test some more things, and we'll be able to really see how much of an impact that these adjustments have made. I really feel like for what it's worth, as I've been able to have more conversations and just kind of digesting and dissecting the adjustments, I feel like a lot of these adjustments were really for the longevity of the game, which I don't think is necessarily the worst thing. I think it's really, really important that if we want to have this game stick around, they have to balance things before they get out of hand. And to be fair, we're also seeing balances off of a game that's not even released. Well, at this point, if we're watching this, we're like practically at the release, but the patch notes came out before on a version of the game that wasn't really technically out to the public. So it's like, what can you do at that point, right? So there's that, guys. But ultimately, this is going to be the global launch tier list. I just wanted to kind of clear up some of those things I knew some players are going to be asking about. But yeah, if you guys are definitely in the area, if you're on the tube, definitely make sure that you guys come through to the live streams, man. We'll be streaming on twitch.tv/Zoxaskun, and we'll also be streaming on YouTube, obviously, and then we'll probably be streaming on my TikTok for the first time. So I'll have those things all linked down below. If you guys want to follow me over there, you're definitely more than welcome to. So yeah, guys, that's basically going to be that with this one. All of you guys, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.